Good afternoon, students. We're still doing the history of the Netherlands Antilles, but I want to tell you today about a very important man in the former Netherlands Antilles. He was a leader, a hero to his people, and they called him the father of his nation. A man with a vision, with a plan, and a man who loved and cared about his people deeply. His name is Betico Croes, an Arubian, born in the year 1938. This man was a teacher before he became a politician. Once Aruba began making money from the refinery, they began to sustain themselves than before. And they noticed that there was a difference between the way they were treated versus Curacao, the biggest country in the Netherlands Antilles, and the country that had the island, I should say, that had the most seats in the parliament of the Netherlands Antilles. So Betico Croes, many of his workers, many of his colleagues wanted to be free from Curacao and the rest of the Netherlands Antilles. And so started a long struggle for his country, his island, to secure separate status. At first, in 1977, there was a referendum, as I told you before, and more than 80% of the population voted for independence. Croes set the date, along with his colleagues, to get independence from the Netherlands Antilles in the Netherlands by 1991. There's some things you have to also know about Mr. Croes. He was one of the most instrumental persons in playing a role in getting a referendum done. Remember, a referendum is when you vote for an issue. I said that last time, so I'm just going to remind you. And he played a big role in that, with others. There's some other things he was able to accomplish with the help of other persons. He's one of the persons that was instrumental in getting a hymn for Aruba song, like a national song, national anthem, the seal. He played a role in that as well. He also had the vision, because he noticed that Aruba was depending solely on a refinery. So that's when you have a one industry, which is not a good thing. He championed and advocated that Aruba should have more than one industry. And the industry he talked about was tourism. He said Aruba should go into tourism like what other islands were doing at the time. And so he also came up with a plan to have all of the major hotels on one strip. So he's one of the persons that came up with that plan. He also was credited with the country having, the island having a bus company. And he's credited with that as well. And so Mr. Croes fought long and hard, along with others, for Aruba to gain their separate status. And as I told you, back in 1986, Aruba was the first island in the Netherlands Antilles to leave and gain country status, separate status, but similar to country. Now, the sad thing about this whole affair is that the night before you could see these things are taking place, Mr. Croes died in a suspicious car accident, and he was in a coma, and he never came out of that coma. But the country, the island of Aruba, remembers this great man by having a national holiday for him. So the story of Betico Croes ends, but his legacy lives on, because a number of people with that last name has entered politics over the last several decades, and they have made their contribution to that country. Thank you for listening.